Hey y'all, and welcome back to Joey's Book. Today we are going to be starting with a new reading vlog. I don't know how to move my hand for this. I forgot the book. You didn't even move the freaking thing. Not mess this title up if I can help it. But as long as the lemon trees grow, I will. Gideon, come say bye. Say bye. No, say bye. Tell them bye. Sorry for the. In the vlog I filmed before. So I've been starting to feel a little bit slumpy, and it's not even because I'm not liking the books that I'm reading, but like in the vlog that I filmed just before this, like I gave a book a 4.5 star and a 5 star. Like I'm enjoying my reading, but like also I've just not been wanting to pick up as many books and just read, and I've been wanting to do other things, and that's completely fine. I deserve to do other things. I should probably do things sometimes other than just read all the time. But I also want to pick up something where I'm wanting to sit down there and read it a lot. And that doesn't mean that hasn't happened at all, but now I'm just kind of moving to that space where I think as a content creator, especially on BookTube, we get to that space where we're planning vlogs, but then we need to take time to read the things we also just want to read so that we don't completely burn out. And I'm not burning out. I just really kind of want to mood read for a bit, so I figured we would take a change of pace. So I think instead, I don't know how long this is going to go for. I don't know if it's going to be like a weekly vlog or what it's going to be, but I think I'm going to just read some books and say, hey, come hang out with me. Maybe we'll get some B-roll. It's gonna be what it is. I have no clue what I'm gonna be picking up yet. I am notorious for having a ton of audiobooks on hold and then deliver later until I get to the video or whatever I'm gonna read that book for. Or it's one of those like 2 or 3 books a month I just pick up because if I have time after I'm done with all my filming. So I might start there and see what I've got. I don't know. I might not end up doing that at all. But almost everything on this shelf back here is covering up where they've just been stacked because I'm running out of space. Because I've only been reading books that I've bought that fit a video. And there's a bunch of like book box books and stuff that I've not been picking up even though I'm really interested in them. You can't even see in that space. I know I've moved it back, but like there's a whole stack of books behind that are like usually my like series and stuff that are kind of there more visually, and they're just completely covered up. So like, 1, I gotta stop buying books, but 2, we just need to read some things I want to. So I don't know. I'm gonna look around. I'm gonna mood read, and I'm probably just gonna update you once I have a clue what this really is. Anyways, I'll see you whenever I have an update. Alright, so this is going to be a really quick kind of update. I am actually about to head to my parents' for Easter weekend, but it's been a couple of days, and I did finally decide on a book, which is technically packed. But I am going to be starting with Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. And I'm about 100 pages in so far. In this, we are following Neva/Fern as she is like, I think it's 1969, 1970, and she is a teenager that has gotten pregnant. And she is basically being taken to a home by her father for pregnant girls to kind of hide the situation and get all the stigmatism and basically just older culture of just, if you are a teenager and pregnant, like, you're basically being shunned by the family. And in this home, it is a home for wayward girls, and while they are there, they are not learning very much about what it actually means to be pregnant. And a lot of these characters and stuff are very almost diabolical, like, so like we've got like a headmistress, we've got a cook, and we've got a social worker who I cannot stand already, even though she's only been in the book a time or 2. She is supposed to be like the nice sweet lady, and she is like the worst of them all right now, trying to convince these girls to like give up their children without like any context or whatever. There's this doctor who is just like cold and harsh on these girls, and it comes off so very despicable. And then even the girls themselves, they all are starting to get these big personalities to a degree. There's some girls that are like really, really young. There's one who I don't know if they said like old she is, but she's like real tiny. I think she's like 11, but looks almost like she's 9, and she's mute, and there's some assumed probably trauma or something there. There's this girl named Rose who is just kind of like this snooty, I'm better than everyone else almost, but like she's also like standing up for things that are actually kind of important and just needed to be talked about during this time. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm waiting for more to happen because other than like one small questionable scene, not a whole lot has actually happened yet, and I am sorry for this angle. I am trying to rush out and get moving because I'm running behind, and I did not set up this camera very well, but if I raise up, whew, if I've shifted around a bit, if I raise up, my legs are falling asleep because anytime I try to vlog and like hold the camera in that way, it's so shaky, and even trying to stabilize it and stuff is a mess. So we're just coming up with spots to update at. I'm going to keep listening to this. I didn't actually intend on reading this as soon as I am. I was going to save this for a third time try vlog, possibly, because Grady Hendrix is going to be a third time author for me. But then whenever Libby delivered my audio for it, instead of hitting deliver later, I said check out, or I said like borrow now. And now I've got to read it because there's a massive hold on it because this is still really big and new and popular right now. So I'm excited to be reading it. Was not quite how I intended on getting into it though. So anyways, I'm going to be about an hour 45-minute drive there, and then I'll be coming back tomorrow. So I don't know if I'll get a chance again to update or not until after I come back, because I'm going to be visiting family, stuff like that. But I will let you know once I've made it further into the book. So I think I am back with an update on Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And it's been, how long has it been? I'm going to say it's been 4 days since I talked to you last, if not a little bit more. Maybe it hasn't been that long because I think I did maybe update you before I went to my family's for Easter weekend. Anyways, I did go and visit my family for Easter weekend, so I spent a day with my parents. And then I went to my cousin's house on Easter Sunday, and we had a bigger family get-together with more people, and had a really good time. It was great to see people. Did have some downtime kind of in between where I had some time to read, and also listened to the audiobook both on the way there and back, which is about almost a 2-hour drive from Nashville. So it's about 4 hours of reading just alone. And within that time, and then last night when I got home from work, I was able to finish Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And I really ended up enjoying this more than I thought I was the majority of the time I was reading it. I never doubted that I enjoyed it, but there's something about Grady Hendrix's writing style that, I don't know, sometimes it seems, I don't want to say it seems childish, because it doesn't, because he hits really hard topics. He's obviously a very mature person to be able to even write these kind of stories, but there's something in the easiness of how he writes that every now and then it doesn't quite feel as gritty as it's being, and there is some gritty stuff in this book. Some hard to discuss descriptions in body horror, especially when it comes to things like pregnancy that happen, and just body horror in general, that were really, really well done. I think and I will say, this is a lot better than this was a lot better of an experience than I've had with any Grady Hendrix so far. I think it wasn't as campy and goofy. That's what I'm trying to think of. And I think there's still a little bit of it that, because I'm used to his writing and I associate him to have a more comedic approach sometimes to his writing, it still seeped in a little bit. Anyways, I am going to actually land on a 4.5 stars for this, because I do think it drug out a little bit. Like, this is a long book. It's almost 500 pages, which if you use Storygraph and you know that it tracks any book that is between like 200 and like I think it's between 200 and 499 pages before it hits the next bracket. Just consider it a 500-page book, please. No wonder my numbers are always so off on that chart. It's starting to make me mad. This is like the third book that's like 480 pages I've read this year. Anyways, I am not even talking about this book. What am I doing? I'm going to land on 4.5 stars because there was just some stuff that I felt like could have been cut out a little bit. Things that I really loved about this were the themes on pregnancy and sisterhood and just the coming of age of it, and what does it mean to be a woman, and what are women viewed as by society. And in the author's note, he even talked about Roe v. Wade, which is very current to today's political climate, and how that ruling changed a lot of what was going on in this. So we're following a group of girls, specifically Fern, whose real name is Neva, but they are given names when they go to this home. And basically it's a maternity home where all these teenage girls are sent to have their babies, and then they're kind of forced into putting them up to for adoption. And the fact that this was written by a man is astounding to me, and a childless man at that. I don't feel like I am fully the best person to give a full review of this because I'm not a woman, and that doesn't mean I'm not gonna still try, but like, I have mad respect for anyone that can have just the empathy to get into this headspace, and the fact that I'm seeing a lot of female reviewers say really good things about it, I think that stands out to me as a male reader. I really enjoyed it. I really liked some of the grittiness. Thought it was a bit too long. It wasn't a perfect 5-star for me. And there were some things that happened within the story, which I'm not going to get into spoiler-wise, that I think could have just been maneuvered around a little bit differently. But overall, it was just a great time. I really enjoyed it. It did take me a little bit to get into the characters. And all the villainous characters in that, they deserve just about everything they got. But also, can we please talk about the injustice that is Diane, I believe was her name. Was it Diane? Diana? I think it was Diane. If you've read this and you know who the social worker is in this, why was their outcome so different to some of the other characters' outcomes in the book? I think they were the most despicable person. And if you know what I'm talking about with the leeches, they deserved worse. They deserved worse. Anyways, I'm really mad that there wasn't even more justice done with that character than what actually happened. So, would definitely watch trigger warnings if anything about children or pregnancy or anything like that are for you, but otherwise I would highly suggest this. I have new faith in Grady Hendrix at being an author that can potentially give me a 5-star, because that was not on my radar. Especially since I've given him a 2 and a 4-star before. So this was a win. Great. It just really worked out how that was almost chosen for me by me hitting a wrong button. So I really enjoyed kind of the darker mindset of that, and I kind of want to read something even a little darker next, because I think I already know what I'm going to pick up. I don't have the book with me right now. It's somewhere around here. I've got to dig it out. But I've been in the mood for just something sad and dark and eerie, and I think I know exactly what that mood is. I think now would be the perfect time to start At Dark, I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca. I love Eric. This is supposed to be one of his darkest ones yet, and I don't know. I want to live in sadness for a little bit. I am feeling that mindset. It's a short one, so that's going to help me get this out a little quicker, where Grady took me so long, but I will come back to you with an update once I read at least some of this. I honestly may finish this whole one in one sitting because it's not very long, so we'll see. It is later the same night, and I have an update. I just completely zoned out, and I have finished At Dark I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca, and like, this is not going to be a popular opinion, but I loved this book. So I sat down on the couch. I should have just got some B-roll because I was reading in tandem with my headphones in, and I had the book open. I'm reading. I take a nap because there was one section of this that was like a transcript partway through that took me completely out. I do want to throw that out there. It was like one chapter, I think it was like chapter 4 or 5 or something like that. Maybe it was a little later. Got really back into it, and I'm reading. And at some point, I just laid my book down and started playing some color game on my phone. And next thing I know, I'm like, I should check how far I am into this, because like, this is getting really heavy, but also really good. And I'm invested, and there were like maybe 5 minutes left on the audiobook, and I had no clue. And if I kind of wish I wouldn't have looked, because I would have just been like completely shocked. But I'm also completely shocked by just how good this was. I had a feeling I was going to like this one since it came out. Like, this cover is amazing. This is like one of my favorite covers ever. I don't know why. There's something about black and red on a cover, or even like red and white. Red with a neutral color palette, it just works. But also, look at this artwork. Let's see if it will focus. Without that glare. Look at whatever this is. So I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on this. And I've seen a lot of people be like, well, we love Eric's like really lyrical writing and the way that he talks about these dark things like depression and darker thoughts and just humanity and grief. But a lot of people are like, the story didn't really work for me. I think this is one of his best, arguably. This is really giving me the feelings I had reading Coup de Grace. It's similar, really, in tone structure, and it's a very, look, even the covers match. There's a good chance this is going to be one of my front-facing books on this favorite shelf here soon. But, like, it's very much one of those, if you really were one of the people who enjoyed this, this may work for you. It's just, LaRocca's writing as a queer man, like, that has fought with depression and stuff in the past, and just negative feelings, and as someone who just, I guess, loves grief horror, like, I don't feel like that's really where my past troubles with that have come in, but, like, it's in there. I relate, and I feel seen in a way in this kind of writing that just clicks. It just clicks. And yes, it's lyrical. Yes, it's beautiful, the way that LaRocca talks, but, like, I just feel seen when I read something like this. Now, that doesn't change the fact that this title, At Dark I Become Loathsome, I loved this title when it was revealed, and after reading it and hearing it so many times, one, I'm like, do I have the correct understanding of what the word loathsome means? But also, like, I'm just tired of hearing it. And it kind of sucks because it's such a good title, and it just shouldn't have been used in the way that it was. Like, the repetition did not work for me. And then there was that transcript. There's a couple different stories that are mixed throughout. And it's almost like an Eric LaRocca short story, but, like, it's relative to what's going on for the most part. But the one that took me out of it, I just didn't feel connected to the story in the way other ones did. Now, if you have read this, even if you haven't, the Tandy story towards the end, that one messed with me and had my jaw on the floor. And it wasn't even like it was like something, I hadn't heard. It wasn't like the ending was the most shocking ending in the world or anything like that. But something about it just worked for me. That Tandy story, I'm gonna be stuck on Tandy. There's a quote in that story that lays very heavily towards the end of the story. I don't even want to quote it right now, but Tandy had some issues. Tandy had more issues than our main character. But no, in this, I haven't even talked about this, what the book is about. I'm just telling you how much I love it. In this, we are following Ashley, and I don't want to say too much, because it's kind of one of those books where you don't need to know too much, because it's, plot-wise, is pretty simplistic. It's really more of this character study of Ashley, because Ashley is depressed. Ashley has gone through some major grief in their life, and they have really coped with it through body modification. Like, extreme body modification. Like, major amounts of piercings and tattoos, but also, like, protrusions like horns coming out. And Ashley has also coped by having these jobs come up on online forums where they offer a service to people who are struggling on life, so to say, and they are no longer wanting to be among the living. And it goes from there. I don't really want to talk into what that service is because it's such a major part of this plot, and it's really makes you try to figure out what exactly is going on. But it just kind of goes from there, and how Ashley is dealing with these major griefs in their life, how they're not handling it well, and how they're still trying to kind of have this outlook of helping other people even though they're at their lowest of their low. And it just goes on a wild, crazy ride from there. This one really reminded me of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke out of anything. I have read LaRocca's entire backlist at this point, except maybe like one of his like online stories. I think he's got one or two that have been published under some kind of subscription type thing, but I don't remember what it was. I've just seen him post about it online. But anyways, there was a lot of that mixed media. There was a transcript section, which unfortunately was the story that really took me out. But aside from that, it was like an online forum that really reminded me of Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. But then also, as you're learning about this job or service that Ashley is providing, you're also getting these like transcripts of what parts of this service are throughout. And it was almost like reading like a clinical study, kind of like very small amount of clinical study. And on the psychological side, I found it so fascinating, this idea. And I feel like I've heard of something similar to this service before, but like I just found it so fascinating. And I really wanted to explore that side of it more in the clinical side, and I want to read something that may dive into that at some point. So someone, if that's not out there, please write that. Take this concept and let's go the clinical route with it and see what happens. Or psychological, because I need that in my life. But, God, I'm rambling so much. I'm having a hard time still processing because it's been maybe 30 minutes since I finished this, and I just couldn't wait to talk about it. I'm really excited, and I do think it's going to be 4.5 stars out of 5. It's still not a perfect 5-star, but that means this mood reading vlog is being really successful, even though it's kind of been a what has the library had available on audio for me vlog too. It's been a little bit of a mix because this one came in right at the right time, but I really enjoyed it. I would not highly recommend this to everyone. Like I said, it's really for the people who related to coup de grace, which a lot of people also didn't connect to in the same way because it was too dark and it was too gritty. But I am so happy to have another 4.5 stars. This month has been an amazing reading month, even though I've slowed down a lot. And I'm still going to get at least one other book in this vlog, and I have no clue, because this was heavy. This was the heavy I wanted. Like, this is the I'm on the verge of tears kind of heavy read. So I don't know if I'm going to go for something lighter. I don't know if I'm going to go for another horror. I don't know what I want to read now. I did have a library book that's technically due, but like my library is under renovation, so I'm not in a rush to take it back. For Arab Heritage, I really wanted to read something from an Arab author because I realized I hadn't this month. And my library, even though it's young adult, which I very rarely read, did have As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. And I actually picked this up without even thinking about it originally because a student of mine who has Middle Eastern heritage really recommended this to me and really spoke highly on it from the aspect of just representation and stuff. They were really happy with it and recommended it. And I've also heard really great things. Sorry, that glare keeps getting the library slip. So I do really want to check this out, but I've also heard this is really, really sad because I think this is set in Sudan during the war. I thought that was a signature. I was like, how the heck did a library get a hold of a signed copy? It was not. It was just an illustration. But yeah, I want to say, Syria. I said Sudan. I think this is set in Syria during like the war and everything. So I'm not sure if I've got that in me right now. I do normally really love like cultural kind of books like this. I might try it and kind of get a vibe for it. If not, I don't know. I need to read something off my 25 for 2025 too, because I've gotten severely behind. Every video I've planned, I find other books that fit the prompts, so that I end up reading instead. Because I did that in my translated one, I did that in my third time try, and I think there was just another book that I just needed number-wise to count to keep me on track of at least 2 a month. So I'm at least 3 books behind. 3 to 4. We're gonna see what happens. I don't know yet. Anyways, I will hopefully check back in here really soon with an update. So once I figure out what I'm gonna read, I'll be back. Cool. We are back with a final update for this vlog. So I did decide to go ahead and pick up As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. And I'm happy I read this. But I am only going to be giving it 3 stars. And this is a very beloved book from the reviews that I've seen. But I want to keep in mind that this is a YA book and I don't really read YA. I think I mentioned it before, but I read this upon a student's recommendation, and because they like to talk about books, so of course some of the more tamer things that I read, I share with my students that I like to read, and I'll tell them a little bit about what I'm reading if I can. Like, obviously we're not gonna go like dark or anything when I'm reading something like an Eric LaRocca or something like that, but like very loosely, I want to help pass on that love of reading to a generation where I feel like it's lost a lot. But anyways, this one was actually recommended in return, with it being Arab American Heritage Month. Even though, like, this isn't an American author, I wanted to read stories from Arab authors. So I really appreciate everything this book is. In this, we are following Salima and her sister-in-law, Layla. Layla is pregnant and they are living in Syria, and Salima is 19 years old, but she was going to school for pharmacy before the war really hit heavy. And due to that, she has basically just become like a trauma ER nurse or surgeon or whatever, even though, like, she's not really qualified. She has more medical knowledge than most. And Layla is pregnant, and they are looking at possibly trying to escape Syria. And in the process of this, Salima also is struggling with PTSD and the events of how she got to where she is at this point in her life, with bombings and family and protests and all of these other things going on. And it really starts to take this story off because she meets a man that is around her age, and they kind of have this kind of secret history that's not really talked about, and it just kind of goes from there, and how meeting him entwines with also how it's like how her views on Syria are, and her need to help people, but in like fight for her country, but also this need to protect lives both in Syria but also with her pregnant sister-in-law. And it really just dives in and explores those, and it's such an important story, especially for like this YA age range. The things that got me in it are mostly things that I can look past knowing it's YA. So like, yeah, there are some things that obviously like it's not what I'm gonna read at an age range, so it seemed immature or whatever, like we're following a 19-year-old, and then there's a romance and stuff that happens within it and whatever. I mean, more power to it. Even though there is actually some pretty heavy stuff that happens in here, don't get me wrong, like, there is all kinds of refugee talk and bombings and other ideations of different things, like, I don't even know how to put into words everything that does happen in here. Like, there's small children and babies having to go through surgery because of everything that's happening, and I don't want to say that it's not dark or gritty enough, but it is within that YA age range versus what I would normally read, versus what I've, even like the baby talk, which isn't super heavy, and it's not like, there's no like pregnancy scenes or anything, but even comparing that versus the Grady Hendrix I read, like, it's gonna be different. The thing that's really making it a 3-star for me are two things, and they would not have mattered if it was YA or not. The first is there is a big romance plot in this, which has nothing to do with why, like, whatever, it's part of the story, and I understand why it's in there, because it does really add, and doesn't make itself the entire story. My issue with it was so insta-love, and because these characters are like, 18, 19 years old, 20, because it was so insta-love, and even in these circumstances, the way that it progressed was just too much for me. And maybe there were some cultural things I don't know about, and maybe there's just some more understanding I need to have, but I could not handle that once it took off, it was gone. And it's YA, so it's not like it's smutty or anything like that. And, I really appreciated the way that they handled Salima being a Muslim woman and wearing a hijab, and that it really dug into the, made it where it was a appropriate romance within that culture. I do wish it went a little bit more into some of the religion, not because it needed to be that, but because I think it would just be so good for this age range, which that has nothing to do with my rating. The other thing that I did not like was I've started to realize in any book, and this kind of helped me really think about that, is I don't always like it when an emotion or a disorder or something like that is personified into a character. I more want to explore a character experiencing the emotion versus talking to the emotion. And it doesn't mean that it can't work for me, or it doesn't always work, but in this, Salima is and I'm not gonna say the name because I'm gonna butcher it, even though I'll listen to it so many times in my listen along. Yeah, I can't find it in the book, even though it's like literally every other page. But they are a like personification of Salima's PTSD and fear and anxiety and all of this. And while I liked that we were exploring these topics, I wanted to see more of as Salima was experiencing it versus this character being there talking her into it. I wanted her just to naturally experience, and that takes me out a little bit. That's just something I've seen in other things. I think maybe Everything the Darkness Eats, like Eric LaRocca, has something similar, but with grief and depression. That really took me out in that story. I'm sure there are other ones that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But yeah, that just, I don't know. It took me out of the story, and there were times when it drug for me, and then it would get really good, and then it would drag. And there was one spot in here that did get me a little bit. About probably about 3/4 of the way through the book, there is this thing that happens and is revealed that didn't even cross my mind. And I don't know if I was just too passively listening or what, but when it happened, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That actually worked for me. And it got me a little bit. It got me a little emotional. It was probably the most emotional part of the book for me, even though there was all of this other stuff that probably should have been heavier. I also just think it was a little bit too long. I think some parts could have been cut out. It could have been shortened down to about 300 pages, and I think that would have been a perfect length, and it still would have been just as impactful. So anyways, that does mean this is going to be 3 stars. So reading this though, and especially since it was one of my high school students that like recommended it to me, it really did bring me back though to when I was like 18, 19, going into my early 20s, and reading Khalid Hosseini, things like The Kite Runner or A Thousand Splendid Suns, even The Mountains Echoed, even though I honestly don't remember that one as well as the other two. And just how much I love those books. And those were some of the first books that got me into reading, and reading about Arab and reading about Arab and Muslim culture, and finally getting to see something outside of the small town I grew up in, and how that just made me love culture and want to explore all of that so much. And I think, especially with this being set in Syria during the war, I think tonight, I'm not going to count it even as a book I read this month, but one of my favorite books, or like, I guess poems, I don't really know what you call this, would be Sea Prayer by Khalid Hosseini. And if you have never heard of this one or read this one, it's so underrated. It is one of those things that I think everyone should read. I used to have a class that I actually would read. There's a YouTube like 360 video where you can read along, because it's short poetry and like images, and it's absolutely stunning all throughout this book. But it's so short. Like, look at this artwork. It's gorgeous. And it's illustrated by Dan Williams also. But like, this follows and is based off the real story of a man and his son who were escaping Syria. Similar to the goal as in the one in As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, they're wanting to escape by boat, and it's this story, and I don't even think it's really a spoiler because it talks about it very early on, but like, I remember there being lines about making swimming holes out of like the craters of bombs, and just the things that people went through in trying to be refugees. And it's so sad and so bittersweet and so good. And I do think like it's thin as all get out too, because it's really a poem. But If you have not read this, this is such a 5-star for me, even though I'm not going to rate it this time. I haven't read it in years. I don't even think I'm going to count it as a book read this month because it's so short, but like, and it's a reread. But definitely check this one out as well. And I'm really excited to kind of maybe reread that tonight before bed. I think we're going to call the vlog here. I know this hasn't been probably the most exciting vlog. It's really just been me being like, oh, I was really busy, but here's what I read, like, around that. And I didn't have the greatest updates or anything, I don't feel like, compared to what could be done and what I've been trying to do lately. But I did manage to read 3 books in this vlog, and those books are right here. So, from my least favorite, which is going to be As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, which was 3 stars, and on up into my other 2, which were both 4.5 stars, including At Dark, I Become Loathsome by Eric LaRocca, and we've got Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, both at 4.5 stars, which is a huge win on both of those. Also, I just realized, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, I never actually said the author name. It is by Zulfa Katul. I cannot get the correct enunciation on that last name, so if I'm butchering it, but I'll hold that up where you can see that author's name if you're interested. Hopefully that's not blurry and shiny. It said the author's name multiple times in the book. I can't get the right inflection on the last name. But anyways, thank you so much for hanging out, and if you've made it this far, watching this far, and, you know, sticking around as I just do a little bit of mood reading. I do want to make it a little more vloggy and get some more B-roll and things in there, but I do think this might be something I do a little bit more, because overall this has been really successful and it's felt really good just to read some stuff I'm in the mood for. So I don't know, maybe I'll toy around and try to figure out how to do some more just casual reading vlogs and not try to make everything a fancy concept, because this is just how I like to read, and I do have a lot more luck. Even though this one, a lot of it ended up being, I have these holds I need to read, so let's read those. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this far. If you've made it this far, if you haven't and you want to see more content like this or support the channel, please make sure to like and subscribe. But maybe in the comments down below, let me know what was like the best, like what is your favorite like either emotional read, or what is like your most recent one. Because I'm always, I don't know, I like the sad stuff. I like the dark and gritty, and I like to just let the books make me feel something. So, in all seriousness, thank you again for watching. Let me know, and I hope to see you in this video here very soon. Bye.